Hey, what's up, friends and family? So I don't know if you're aware, but I host panel meetings regularly with live guests and with live audience members. Sometimes it's a panel, sometimes it's just one interview. I host these on Zoom. Last week, I replayed the video of an interview I did with Garrett Hartle of Reach Out Reptiles.
The trick is not selling it to specialized nerds. There's only so many of us, and we are already spending all of our money on toys.
Now, if you have a question for Garrett, he's a fairly accessible guy, but that's not always the case with my guests. And the only way you may be able to ask them a question that you want to have answered is to just sign up and attend one of these meetings in person. Because I actually recorded this video live and shared it to this channel last week, and I'll put a link to it here. But you can't watch that, you can't ask him a question unless you're actually there. I get a lot of people leaving comments on the video. Leave a comment, by the way, if you know who you want to have on, if you have any suggestions for any other guests or any other topics, because I'm always open to suggestions. If you know Garrett Hartle, you know he's famous for Superdwarf reticulated pythons. And I actually have a Superdwarf from Garrett Hartle. This is Midas. He is a 2021 baby. He's half Madu, half OG Kalatoa, or OG Superdwarf, meaning it's not sure exactly which islands around Kalatoa these animals came from, and were imported because they were kind of all just in a mixed bag and then bred amongst each other. So he's a pure Superdwarf, but we don't know what specific localities, which makes him just a mutt. But I'm totally okay with that because he's still going to have the really small genetics that we're looking for. You might be asking yourself, what is a Superdwarf reticulated python? What do you need to know about the Superdwarf reticulated python is that superdwarfism is not a genetic trait. It's not a mutation, it's not a gene, it's not inheritable like that. What it is a subspecies of reticulated pythons all found on a certain set of island chains that reticulated python breeders have labeled Superdwarf. That is because the snakes come in a much smaller size, with males ranging anywhere from 7 to 9 feet and females get to be a few feet bigger. And you could compare this to other nearby island chains where they call them dwarfs, which are more like 12 to 15 feet, and the females can get a little bigger, and then the mainland localities where you're talking about a 20-foot female in the largest snakes, although 16 to 18 feet is definitely a little bit more common. 20 feet is just ridiculous. So anyone who knows what a locality is, then you understand what a Superdwarf is. It's the same thing. It's not a morph, it's not a genetic trait, it's just a locality of reticulated python that grows to be smaller than the mainland variety after thousands of generations of isolation, and that's why they became their own subspecies. There's a few other videos that Garrett also did with some of his employees that will help break it down, so I'll put a link in the description because I think that's really important for you to understand what I'm talking about. Why am I talking about this anyways? I'm not here to market for Reach Out Reptiles. I'm not here to tell you what a Superdwarf reticulated python is. There's 100 million videos about that. They have a really great channel. They can do that themselves. They can market themselves.
I was, for whatever reason, created to sell reptiles. I don't know. You know, some people are like Olympic gymnasts. Some people are born to be a teacher. I'm like born to sell reptiles. Not even sales guy, just selling reptiles because I've failed at sales in other industries and stuff like that. So,
but you know, it got me thinking, what other animals could there be considered a Superdwarf? You know, there's a few other big categories, and the two other big snakes that everyone thinks of course, are the Burmese python and the green anaconda. Now, Burmese pythons actually have a dwarf species. You don't see many of them in the hobbies, but they do definitely exist, and there's probably a lot of room for these animals in the giant snake community to, you know, breed the different morphs into and really introduce a smaller size Burmese python into the hobby as well. I think there's a lot of room for that, but it hasn't been done yet. But what about the green anaconda? I know there's yellow anacondas and they're smaller, but that's not exactly a dwarf. There's a few other large anaconda species as well, but they're all big, heavy-bodied snake. Is there anything smaller? Well, I say there already is. Let me introduce to you the Superdwarf red anaconda. That's right, red anaconda. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an animal that no one is selling you. You will not find a Superdwarf red anaconda on Morph Market. You will not find Superdwarf red anaconda breeders. That's because This is a Brazilian rainbow boa. Now, I'm being facetious, of course. Although the Brazilian rainbow boa is very closely related to anacondas, more so than any other boa species, it's not exactly the same. I'll tell you this. There's a few folks who have helped me along my way, in the path to keeping Brazilian rainbow boas, and I actually did a panel with them, a number of them, as my very first video. I'll put a link to that here as well. One of those guests was Dave Calling of Rainbows R Us Reptiles.
Perusing a Boas of the World book, and we came across pictures of the rainbow boas, and they're gorgeous, and had to have some, and within a month or so, I had a pair from East Bay Vivarium, and I've been keeping them ever since.
Awesome. So you've been keeping rainbow boas for 30 years?
Yeah, 30 plus.
And how long have you been breeding them?
I've been breeding them for over 20.
Awesome. Awesome.
That first litter was all it took to really get me hooked.
Dave is a legend in the Brazilian rainbow boa community, and like my other interviews, I'm going to be hosting a live Zoom interview with him, and I'm going to ask him all about the questions I have specifically about breeding rainbow boas, because this guy is Harvey, and he's going to be paired up with a lovely pearl, sort of orangey red lady that I have on loan. I'll detail more of that should we get some successful results out of that, or ask me questions, shoot me a comment and let me know if you have any questions. But I'm going to be breeding him, and I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to be doing the live Zoom interview with him, and I'm going to ask him all the questions I have about breeding rainbow boas or breeding Superdwarf red anacondas, and we'll see what he has to say about that. So if you're interested like I am in learning about how to breed Brazilian rainbow boas, then this is a conversation you definitely don't want to miss. It's going to be held Wednesday, September the 7th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That's here in California, 6 p.m. Pacific. So it's a late one on the East Coast, 9 p.m. East Coast time. And it's held on Zoom. So you can find the link to this invite on my Facebook page, Stephen Lewis. I usually share them on my Instagram, Hurt Panel Forums. And of course, I'll have it in the description of this video. So that's it. I hope the next time to see you, it'll be on Zoom, right? You could join up live and ask questions about breeding rainbow boas and ask me if they bite. And honestly, if I hold Harvey here for another 5 to 10 minutes, you see those tongue clicks he's doing? Eventually he's just going to turn his head and he's going to go. He likes to bite me. I don't know why he always thinks I'm food. Maybe it's a defense thing because I'm another male. But he's just a gorgeous animal, and I have real lousy lighting in this room, which is probably the worst thing you could do as a YouTube host. But the lighting is terrible in here, so you don't really get a good view of the beautiful iridescence that gives these snakes their name. But here it is. Here's Harvey. He's going to be hopefully the dad to a clutch this year, or a litter, depends on how you want to describe it. And you don't want to miss this one. Wednesday, September 7th, 6 p.m. Pacific. Come join us. Look at this grip, man. That's why these guys are so closely related to anacondas. You don't feel what this is like. This is darn near cutting off circulation. Not quite. You can see I can still move my hand quite well, but they have got a hell of a grip. Anyways, that's it, friends and family. Hope to see you at the Zoom meeting. Bye.